a legacy is only as valuable as its owner, and here at the TV region, we only cover the needles amongst haystacks. So here's a look at the top 25 most legendary Marvel fights across films and TV. The TVA was supposed to be this omniscient group of agents who could even make the Infinity Stones look like decorative toys. And then comes Deadpool, who makes them look like replaceable action figures while dancing along to some NSYNC. Bro was taking selfies and spreading gore all while the opening credits were playing. I'm not gonna lie, more movies should incorporate stuff like this if they actually want the audience to see the names of those who've worked on their films. Can you imagine being a TVA soldier watching all of this on the monitors before being sent out? Like, not only has your target violently slaughtered everyone sent out before you, but he's also been taking the time to bust out some sick dance moves in between massacring your colleagues. Ant-Man isn't usually the kind of name you'd associate with the word legendary, but his battle against Yellow Jacket was actually a very pleasant watch, and by pleasant, I mean badass. Yes, it's supposed to be funny as well. But the visuals were on point, and if anything, it just made me want to see a Superman vs Zod level battle in a Lego setting involving Scott Lang. It was goofy with the trains and whatnot, but make no mistake, it definitely took a certain level of skill to pull it off without making it look cringy. I remember seeing this in theaters and yelling, "Kill him, Thomas!" when everyone's favorite train became a giant. Yeah, those were the good old days.
I want your daddy too. There you are.
Daddy, is that you?
Hi, Peanut. Why don't you pick on someone your own size?
Power at 400% capacity.
How about that?
The start of every fruitful partnership is often loaded with conflict, and the Avengers are no exception to that. Thor, Captain America, and Iron Man make up the OG trio that have carried the MCU right until Endgame, and even they had a massive fight when they first met. The main encounter is between Tony Stark and the God of Thunder, which is a thriller for sure, but it's actually Steve Rogers who helps end the madness with the power of Talk no Jutsu. Oh, wait, that's a Naruto thing. Anyway, this was a memorable scene because of how it actually united the Avengers, but make no mistake, Iron Man vs Thor was a heck of an experience. The Illuminati have to be the biggest joke the MCU's played on us ever since its existence. Believe me, the only reason Doctor Strange 2 got close to $1 billion at the box office was because of the hype surrounding these guys.
What mouth?
And then Wanda just rips them apart like they mean nothing at all. Okay, I can get Black Bolt getting beaten the way he did, but to show Reed Richards as a literal fool and Charles Xavier as naive was definitely the work of someone who didn't understand the source material or even watch the Fox movies. The reason this scene is even in this video is because of how powerful Wanda is shown with the Darkhold boost. Also, it was kind of satisfying to see these fools meet their ends. They definitely didn't deserve to be in the MCU.
You want tongue now? How about now?
The Punisher is your typical Giga Chad with no hesitation to kill, and he means every single attack he lands. Take a look at his brutal takedown of the Russians in the gym scene as an example. I love how visible they made the damage on these guys look. Truly makes you realize how badly a fight like this would mess you up. In other action sequences, the characters would normally just have some scars on their face after being hit like that, but not in this show. This show gives you a pretty freaking realistic display of what happens when you try to piss off the Punisher. Bro doesn't even hesitate to fight dirty. After all, he's always been about survival first.
I really don't ever want to see you again.
Feelings mutual.
The Guardians of the Galaxy are supposed to be a whole unit by themselves, and while they've pulled off some impressive group battles, I don't think anything will match the scale of the hallway fight in Volume 3. Taking on the guards of the High Evolutionary was a classic display of teamwork with several highlights from each of the Guardians involved. Seeing Big Groot in action again was always going to be good, but seeing Nebula rebuilding and reawakening after that blow was also a neat trick. James Gunn may have his hands full with the DC Universe right now, but I don't think the MCU could have chosen anyone better to direct this particular sub-franchise. The Winter Soldier isn't really favoured that much when it comes to fighting or beating others, so let me give him a moment of glory here when he seamlessly beats down pretty much everyone who tries to stop him. Yes, Iron Man doesn't have his suit, but Bucky was up against quite a few opponents like Black Widow and Sharon Carter, so it's fair game in my eyes. Of course, Black Panther comes in with all his aura and manages to beat the Winter Soldier without even his suit, which is badass on a whole other level, but credit should be given where it's due. And yeah, I think we all need to marvel at T'Challa taking a punch from a metal arm and getting back up like it was nothing. Bro's legacy definitely went further than an indestructible suit.
You shouldn't have killed my mom and squished my Walkman.
A son is always trying to keep up with his father's achievements, but if you're Star-Lord, then it would be better to just be rid of your associations before people come to cancel you. Ego's the most appropriate name they could have given Kurt Russell's celestial character here, because his entire persona is based on that very trait. His overconfidence is what makes him so arrogant, and it also leads to his downfall in this epic battle between father and son. Who knew that the best way to defeat Ego would be to have his own son relinquish his god powers? It's the ultimate sacrifice if you're someone who wants to be all powerful and mighty, but to a man who values his friends, family and comrades, it may as well have been one of the easiest things Peter Quill did his whole life. Oh yeah, and the visuals were sick AF. There's always been a debate about who the strongest Avenger is, and while a lot of people would like to say the Hulk, we shouldn't underestimate the power of a god. Sure, the angry green giant did make Loki look like a puny one, but this is his overpowered brother we're talking about. Thor is no pushover, as we did see these two fighting in 2012's Avengers before. That fight may not have had a clear victor, but this one does, even if it had to come with some silly loopholes and plot convenience. I won't focus on the result because the true fun is the fighting. Seeing this new attire on the Hulk was a refreshing take on the character, and he definitely entertained his audience for the most part till the God of Thunder realized this movie is named after him. Sure, there's tons of CGI, but the action remains unparalleled. Looks like we found ourselves another father versus son moment wherein the son totally owns the battle. Shang-Chi facing off against Wenwu may have seemed like a lost cause on the first glance, but one must never forget a superhero's ability to awaken some kind of hidden powers within him right when it looks like he's gonna be taken out. Shang-Chi manages to do just that when he summons the 10 rings for himself and uses Wenwu's main weapons against him to claim the fight. There's a lot invested into this fight as Shang-Chi needs to do his mom proud, and Wenwu gets an understanding of his son's true capabilities. But sadly, the parental love only lasts for so long as the dragons take over to give us another ultimate showdown. But yeah, full credit to Shang-Chi for tapping into his inner Bruce Lee and letting good prevail over evil. Hallway fights are always going to have a special place in my heart, primarily due to Oldboy, but of course there have been some scenes with merit on their own too. I already mentioned the one from Guardians of the Galaxy, but let's not forget how iconic the Daredevil hallway fight is from 2015. This was made on a much lower budget and is so raw that you could almost see yourself in a similar situation just by watching the replays on YouTube. In my earlier videos, I've already spoken about how they make it seem so believable by showing Daredevil getting tired and having to put in every ounce of available energy to finish the job, which is what should be happening in real life too. However, I don't think I've mentioned how entertaining it was to watch that dude get smacked with the microwave. That came out of nowhere, and I absolutely loved it. On a serious note though, this fight set us up for all the other brilliant ones we'd go on to watch in this amazing Netflix show. What better feeling is there for a fallen king than to reclaim his throne? I'll tell you what, nothing. That's right. T'Challa coming back from the dead to become the true ruler of Wakanda once again was an epic finale to a movie that still stands the test of time 7 years later. Killmonger was a great villain, and the depth of his character is what makes this fight even more enjoyable. On the one hand, you have two highly skilled opponents doing their best to gain the power of their nation, with T'Challa being the clear favourite. However, on the other hand, there's Killmonger's tragic past, which has shaped him into this vengeful being, so you can't help but at least understand why he's acting the way he is. The skills were surely top notch, and the final moments with the trains were thrilling to say the least. What's most impressive though is the fact that Chadwick Boseman was filming all of this badassery while having cancer.
Because they knew death was better than bondage.
That truly is the stuff of legends. Wherever you are, I hope you're resting in peace. Ah yes, what would a TV Regent video be without at least one genuine girl boss moment? Look, I know I may act a little sus when it comes to beauties like Scarlett Johansson, but that's just the fanboy in me. There's no doubt from any perspective regarding Black Widow's brutal demolition of Hammer's guards being a top tier moment in MCU history. This was the scene that actually established Natasha Romanoff as a badass fighter who does a lot more than hold her own against enemy forces. There's humour as well in Happy Hogan struggling for dear life while trying to defeat just one guard. Meanwhile, Black Widow's out here cleaning the entire lot, and she does it with such grace and perfection that you instantly fall in love with her. This is obviously not on the same power levels as some of the earlier entries, but this list is all about fights that are remembered fondly by fans from day one. So by that logic, this one definitely qualifies. And before anyone accuses me of choosing this entry because of the changing sequence in the car, let it be known that I didn't even mention it before once until now. Damn. Played myself again, didn't I? It's not always that you get to see someone like the Wolverine getting along with a comrade in battle, especially when said comrade happens to be Deadpool. The amount of time Wade Wilson got on Logan's nerves throughout this film was excessive to say the least, but it all paid off in this epic battle against the Deadpool variant. You could actually say the cumulative annoyance that was being stowed away by Wolverine finally found its way out when he realized he got the perfect outlet to channel his rage. Destroying the Deadpool army was never going to be a done deal. Because so many of them could regenerate. However, seeing Logan and Wade mercilessly rip through this army was easily the most badass sequence of Deadpool and Wolverine. Of course, the one moment that pushed me to place it so high was Wolverine putting on his legendary mask. That alone gave this scene like 50 bonus points. I have to say, it's quite impressive that a sequence like this is already at number 12, despite not even being a year old. That's not to say that other entries like Hulk versus Abomination don't deserve to be in this video, but hey, I've got some recency bias in me, so I deserve the leeway. Billionaires can do pretty much anything they want, right? Well, Tony Stark actually proves it in great detail here as he shows us what his funds can do in extreme situations. Not only does he take down the Hulk, which is supposed to be impossible for a human being, he also bought a whole building in the process. This is what obscene levels of wealth can get you. And to be honest, I don't think I would have been able to think that quickly on my feet. Just think about it. You're in an Iron Man suit, in a much bigger Iron Man suit, while trying your best to defeat an angry green giant who doesn't look like he's going to stop anytime soon. How the heck are you going to randomly come up with the idea to demolish a whole building as you see it? Anyway. The fighting part of this entry is what elevates it to number 10. We're watching two epic entities whacking it out with each other while causing all kinds of destruction, so entertainment was always guaranteed. Can you imagine what the conversations would have been like for the S.H.I.E.L.D. agents who didn't know the Hulkbuster's code name? Just picture them talking to Nick Fury. "The Hulk's gone crazy, sir. Is anyone taking care of it? Don't worry, bro. Veronica just smashed him into a building and put him to sleep." That dude would have been totally like, "Who the heck is Veronica?"
Go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep.
Nothing hits harder than seeing your childhood heroes coming back for a franchise that you also happen to enjoy. Well, this was unfortunately the last good thing the MCU gave us before a string of disappointments, but I won't complain too much about them for now. After all, I'm going to talk about how Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland unite to take down Lizard, Electro, and Sandman. Yeah. How often do you get to hear that statement? The three Spider-Man icons pull off some impressive stunts as they do their best to revert the villains to their original forms, which was the standout battle for me. Yeah, Green Goblin comes afterwards, but his involvement doesn't apply that much to this particular sequence. Right from seeing Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3 swinging in perfect coordination to working together cohesively so that they can beat their opponents, it was a roller coaster of emotions for Spider-Man fans across eras. Even Doc Ock joins in on the fun towards the end, which is a neat inclusion if you ask me. Emotions were running really high throughout this mega battle, and that's probably why it's going to be remembered so fondly for years to come.
Okay, Spider-Man. Sandman's first.
I'm gonna lead him inside the statue.
You know a character is an MVP when his fight scene turns out to be the most memorable battle from a show that's named after another dude. Look, I love Matt Murdock as Daredevil, I really do, but he'll never have that kind of aura that Frank Castle has as the Punisher. Sure, his methods are extreme and he may crave violence more than Homelander craves sus milk, but boy, he sure knows how to make it look captivating. The prison massacre from Daredevil Season 2 is easily the most iconic scene the show's ever produced, and it doesn't even involve Matt Murdock. What it does include is an extremely murderous Frank Castle, who doesn't stop before he ends each and every inmate coming at him. The amount of blood and gore on display is ridiculous, which shocked a lot of Marvel fans at the time because this was a huge deflection from what the main characters believed in. However, in this case, the main character is the Punisher, who looks iconic with his skull symbol being subtly placed in the form of the blood marks on his shirt. If the MCU messes up these characters in any way when I watch Daredevil Born Again, I'm definitely cancelling my Disney Plus membership.
Because you won't be alive to tell them.
There's nothing like a hit of nostalgia to make a scene all the more memorable. The OG trio of Iron Man, Captain America and Thor were shown earlier in this video, although in that one they were all fighting against each other. Here they're united against a common enemy, who's none other than the MCU's big baddie, Thanos. Now look, I know the writers seriously nerfed Thor for this battle, and I don't agree with it. But I suppose they wanted this battle to be a bit more serious and drawn out, given what was about to follow right after. Plus, if Thor had finished off Thanos within the first 10 seconds of the battle, then we wouldn't have gotten to see the epic reveal of Steve Rogers lifting Mjolnir and giving the Mad Titan a serious headache. It's true that these icons weren't able to take down their main enemy by themselves, but I don't mind it as much because of how the scene eventually plays into the grandest finale the MCU has ever had. Okay, I'll admit that I totally hated the part where Thanos was able to counter Iron Man's most powerful Thor-charged laser beams just by rotating his blade like a chopper. We get it, bro, you're an Arnold fan, but don't do my boy Tony dirty like that. The new Captain America movie desperately tried to emulate this gem of a film, but I'm afraid to say it landed nowhere close. As a matter of fact, this fight alone clears the entirety of Brave New World, and I'm not even trying to be a hater here. The sequence of the fight is great because it establishes Bucky as a serious threat right in the beginning when he's wreaking havoc. Bro was looking like a dude in his goth phase, but with murderous intent. This villain wasn't about cheesy one-liners or unnecessary dramatization. He was here to kill, and that made him a serious threat. When Steve Rogers comes in to fight him, he provides relief to the audience and quickly shifts our emotions from that of worry and uncertainty to reassurance. Our man was pulling off some great moves on the Winter Soldier too, even though he also got a few licks in. I also love how Cap is just relentless here. There's no circling or measuring up his opponent, he just attacks again and again. And that's exactly what's needed to fight someone like the Winter Soldier. Now, we as the audience pretty much knew who Cap was up against here, and after the events of the first film, it did feel bittersweet. However, when Captain America himself realized that he's been fighting against Bucky, what he felt at that moment was surprisingly relatable to us all as well. To me, the part where Bucky grabs the shield is definitely the highlight, but I wouldn't be surprised if others prefer the actual fighting sequences too.
Maximum effort.
Deadpool's a really funny guy and clearly has no chill at all, especially when it comes to introducing himself. We saw it in the Deadpool and Wolverine entry from earlier.
Ow! Yankee, Yankee!
We also saw it in the opening to Deadpool 2, but to me, his most iconic battle will always be the first time we're introduced to the character in 2016.
Shit. Did I leave the stove on?
And yes, by this I mean the actual Deadpool, not the fake version from 2009's X-Men Origins, although I have admitted that I don't hate that character as much now, you know? Regardless, the opening hallway fight is peak Deadpool content as we get the best of all of his worlds together in one elongated sequence. It's got humor, it's got fourth wall breaking, it's got some serious gore, and most importantly, it's got great action. These opponents are by no means Wade Wilson's toughest opponents.
Bad Deadpool. 7. Good Deadpool.
But we don't need them to be that way because Deadpool makes the whole thing look like a day out in an amusement park. We get to know everything there is about this man in this opening sequence, which reassures us that he's going to be faithful to the comics. I mean, think about it. What's the most iconic Deadpool fight you've ever seen? This one has to be your answer. But yeah, even if it isn't, don't come at me in the comics, okay? I just wanted to sound dramatic.
Rich Corinthian leather.
I'm looking for Francis. Have you seen this man?
I've constantly spoken about the impact of movie scenes via meme culture, and this elevator scene is easily at the pinnacle of such scenes. What's even better about it is that it's able to strike the perfect balance between being used as comic relief for internet chats and an epic lesson on how you should make a fight scene involving multiple opponents against one overpowered Giga Chad. Captain America may not amount to much when it comes to super strength or super powers, but the moment you put him in a room with regular skilled fighters, he easily takes the cake. Steve Rogers made sure to offer one last round of mercy before the fight began, but since no one was willing to take him up on it, he decided to do what any badass would: kick some serious butt. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure it wasn't easy as Cap made it look, but damn, the way he casually jumps through the elevator right after made it appear as if he could have done the whole thing another 10 times if he wanted to. Also, keep in mind that he had to counter those magnetic cuffs the Hydra agents were using to restrict his movements. Yeah, it's no surprise that a film like The Winter Soldier has managed to land multiple entries in the top 10.
Does anyone want to get out?
Ain't no way I'm making a list about legendary fights and not including Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man in it. I was trying really hard to put in a Bully Maguire scene in today's video, but that dude's more towards the meme side of things and not as balanced as the previous elevator entry. Anyway, we have the epic final battle of the first ever Spider-Man movie involving the Web Slinger and Green Goblin. We all know that Norman Osborn wasn't going to be an easy opponent, and William Dafoe goes all out in letting us know why he's the literal embodiment of his surname. It was a great display of practical effects, as most of the sequence, if not all, was done without CGI. Add the fact that this film is now around 23 years old, and you start to question the merits of modern VFX artists. Man, some of the damage that was dealt to Peter Parker was truly savage. Bro got thrown into a building and had a bomb come his way right after. Mercy was nowhere to be found, but eventually our man does prevail. The way Spidey wins the fight at first would have been a perfect superhero's victory, but of course the Green Goblin wasn't going to go down this easy.
Godspeed, Spider-Man.
So he had to try the stereotypical last resort. As one would expect, this only led to his own doom as Spider-Man used the Goblin to destroy the Goblin. Oh man, this fight does leave a very sour taste in my mouth, but I can't deny how awesome it was to watch this in the cinemas when it released. Thanos does win this battle, but not before we get to see some super impressive feats from his opponents, especially Doctor Strange and Iron Man. The sequence between the Mad Titan and the Sorcerer Supreme was nothing short of a visual delight, and I genuinely believe that Stephen Strange would have won if he just used the Time Stone. And then we have Iron Man, who seriously overperforms against Thanos. Nobody was expecting him to do much damage, even with his new nanosuit. But Tony Stark proved once again why he's such an iconic character. It's an extended sequence for sure, especially with the initial attack involving Spider-Man and the Guardians of the Galaxy, but man, it keeps us hooked all the way through. You know, we probably wouldn't have even had to get to this point had Star-Lord just kept his cool and let Tony's plan play out the way he'd prepared it. However, if that was the case, then this scene may not have even have made it to this list at all. So I guess we should thank Peter Quill for having that brain fade, eh?
Piece of cake, Quill.
Yeah, if your goal was to piss him off.
Yes, I know you might be shocked that this entry gets the top spot, especially if you're aware of how much I've criticized Captain America's plot armor, which in this case
I didn't know it was him.
is like some mega buffed version of vibranium. However, as I've always mentioned, I'm a man of fairness, which is why I have to admit that this is indeed the most legendary fight in the Marvel Universe. I mean, you've got their biggest characters facing off against each other, with neither of them being really at fault for the situation. Although, I will call out Steve Rogers for not being honest with Tony Stark about Bucky. I mean, you guys are friends, right? The least you could have done was being honest with him. But anyway, the fight in itself was a sight to behold, because it's pure rage and passion on display. Sure, Captain America and the Winter Soldier managed to get a lot of things going their way, primarily due to the writers, but full credit goes to Iron Man for almost taking the both of them down despite being super nerfed in this sequence. Bro's been losing 2 entries in a row, although you need to consider he wasn't able to use a lot of his weapons due to the limitations in the area. Even so, he still showed us why Iron Man is such a badass, and as far as Captain America goes, that dude's tenacity is on a whole other level. I'd compliment the Winter Soldier as well, but he got his arm blown off, which pretty much reduced him to a standard super soldier. But yeah, if we were going to consider the MCU as a boxing tournament, then this was by far the big draw. Hope you liked the video. Please subscribe to the TV region, and here's another video that I know you're going to enjoy.